Lavonne looks like the commander designed to stop Bernice. She has barrier, she can absorb burn, she can stun attackers, and after turn 6, she can turn her barrier into direct commander damage. On paper, this should be one of the best anti-burn commanders in the game, but after testing her, I have to be honest, Lavonne can survive Bernice, but surviving burn is not the same as beating Bernice. So today, we are going to break down Lavonne, explain why her design is so interesting, why the matchup, can Lavonne really stop Bernice, or is Bernice still too strong? Before talking about the matchup against Bernice, we need to understand one keyword. Barrier. Barrier absorbs damage from abilities that includes effects like burn, health addiction and health drain, but this is very important. Barrier does not protect against normal attacks. So if a mercenary attacks Lavonne directly, the barrier does not block that damage. And barrier also does not block abilities that directly set or determine the target's health. This is why Lavonne is interesting against burn, but still vulnerable against burst and multi-attack pressure. Now, let's break down her kit. Lavonne is a barrier specialist, and right now, after early testing, I will place her around tier 1.5. She has a very unique design because she has one passive and 3 active skills. Her role is simple: survive the burn, stabilize the board, and finish the game after turn 6. Her passive is the core of her entire gameplay. Whenever you summon an ally mercenary, except module and only once per turn, that ally gains barrier. Lavonne also gains the same amount of barrier, and once that ally dies, Lavonne gains 200% of that barrier. So in practice, if an ally receives barrier, Lavonne gains barrier immediately, and then gain even more when that ally dies. This is the barrier engine. Every summon helps Lavonne build her own defensive resource, and every death can become fuel for her win condition. Her first active skill is Restoration Field. It becomes available on turn 2 and lasts for 3 turns. At the end of the turn, Lavonne heals the commander and all allies that were attacked this turn for 50%. This is a sustained tool. The stronger Lavonne's barrier is, the stronger the healing becomes. But remember, this does not stop attack from happening. It only helps you recover after pressure. Her second active skill is Barrier Shockwave. It becomes available on turn 4. Lavonne consumes 50% of her barrier and deals that amount as damage to all enemy mercenaries. This is her board clear. It can punish white board, remove pressure, and help Lavonne stabilize. But she also gains an extra effect for 1 turn. If Lavonne is attacked, she stuns the attacking enemy mercenary. So turn 4 is her defensive control turn. This is usually the moment where Lavonne tries to survive the enemy's strongest board pressure. And then we have a third active skills, Execution Protocol, starting on turn 6. This skill becomes available every turn. Lavonne consumes 15% of her barrier and deals that amount as damage to the enemy commander. This is a main win condition, but the most important tip is this: do not always use the turn 6 skill every single turn. If you save it, you can chain multiple use in one finishing turn and convert your barrier into world left. So Lavonne's game plan is very clear. Step 1, survive. Step 2, take the ball. Step 3, survive the enemy skill turn. Step 4, finish with skill 3 after turn 6. Her strengths are clear. She can resist burn, she can clear the board, and if she stabilizes, she can finish the game with repeated commander damage. But her weaknesses are also very clear. She is vulnerable to early burst, she struggles against multi-attack, and she needs time to stack enough barrier before her win condition becomes dangerous. So Lavonne is not about winning fast, she is about control. She wants to stabilize the late game, stack barrier, and then execute the enemy commander after turn 6. Barrier first, execute late. Now that we understand Lavonne's abilities, let's look at a world composition. For this video, I don't want to show 10 different builds that all do almost the same thing. Instead, I want to focus on one strong example, MeRKuS composition. MeRKuS is an American player, currently top 5 world, and after testing Lavonne, this is one of the builds that makes the most sense to me. The idea of this composition is simple. Control the board, survive the bird, and finish the game after turn 6. Agwat is here to apply infection, pressure the enemy commander, and help manage the enemy board. But there is one important detail. Agwat is a transformation when she is summoned. Because of that, she does not benefit from Lavonne's barrier on summon. So even if Agwat is very strong, she does not fully activate Lavonne's passive engine. Vespina is here to kill the backline. She helps remove K-fruits before they become too dangerous. Wyver is very interesting in this composition. She brings burn pressure, helps take the board, and can clear enemy units. But her interaction with Lavonne is special. Wyver summons 4 drones. Those drones do not receive barrier directly. However, when they die, Lavonne can still gain barrier value. So Wyver can indirectly help Lavonne stack, even if the drones themselves are not protected by barrier. 16 is here for our removal, especially against backline threats. She helps clean dangerous setups before the snowball. Tola gives early sustain. This matters a lot because Lavonne needs time. She doesn't want a fast chaotic game, she wants to survive long enough to stabilize and reach turn 6. And finally, we have the anti-Bernice package, Nona, Cinta and Sky. Nona protects against pressure, Cinta gives cleans and healing, Sky gives resistance and helps survive burn turns. And this is the most important part of the composition. Even with Lavonne's anti-burn design, you are still almost forced to play Nona, Cinta and Sky against Bernice. That means Lavonne's commander kit is not self-sufficient in the Bernice matchup. She can survive burn better than most commanders, but she still needs the full anti-Bernice package to have a real chance. So this build is not about making Lavonne aggressive, it is about giving her enough time to do what she wants, survive early, take the board, survive the enemy skill turn, and finish with skill 3 after turn 6. Now that we understand Lavonne's kit and MeRKuS composition, let's jump into the gameplay. And this is where things become interesting, because on paper, Lavonne has everything she needs to fight Bernice. Barrier absorb burn, she has healing, she has board clear, she has stun, and she has a direct damage win condition after turn 6. But in a real game, the matchup is more complicated, so let's see what actually happens. Now let's jump into the gameplay. For this first game against Bernice, I'm going second. And I'm showing this game on purpose, because this is one of the hardest situations for Lavonne. When you go second, Bernice gets to attack you twice before you can activate your skill 1, so this is a very good test. If Lavonne can't survive this kind of opening, then she really has tools to exist in the burn meta. My opening hand is Cinta, Nona, River and 16. Cinta and Nona are very important here. If I survive the early game, these 2 cards give me access to the late game. River and 16 are my flexible option. I will decide which one to play depending on what my opponent deploy. My opponent opens with Harper, and Harper is a direct threat against Lavonne. With Barrier, I'm not really afraid of Bernice's skill damage. Barrier can absorb burn and ability damage, but Harper is dangerous because of multi-attack. If she stays alive, she can stack 1 additional multi-attack every turn, and that can become impossible to manage very quickly. So I'm forced to answer with River. The goal is simple, I need to kill Harper as fast as possible. My opponent answers with Regina. Again, this is the same idea. He wants to create as much multi-attack pressure as possible and threaten my early game. Then I top deck Agwat. I decide to play a Gwat on the front line. My goal here is to kill the fruits one by one. And because I didn't take too much damage yet, I can save my skill 1 for one more turn. This is very important with Lavonne. You don't want to use your defensive skill too early if you don't have to. My opponent uses skill 1 to try to take back the board. Then he plays Cinta. This actually makes sense. Cinta has very good synergy with Regina, because every attack can correct our value. And in this matchup, Cinta does not really give Bernice much defensive value against Lavonne, so using her to take the board is logical. But here the problem for him is that Cinta will die to burn and Regina will also get knocked out. Then I draw Sky. Now I activate skill 1. The goal is to help stabilize and prepare the late game. Then I deploy 16. At this point I have all my late game tools in hand and I can start clearing the board. My opponent deploys Pixie. And Pixie is actually very interesting here. Every turn Pixie can try to burst me. My barrier can cover the damage, but she also slows down my win condition. Because every time my barrier absorbs damage, I survive. But I also lose part of the resource I need to finish the game later. Here I deploy Nona and I keep my skill 2. I want to save skill 2 to clear the board after Bernice uses her skill 2. I'm not in danger right now, and more importantly, from this position, Bernice will have a hard time finishing the game. Almost anything he plays can die. As expected, my opponent used skill 2. Then he plays Kirsten in front of Nona. But because I saved my skill 2, he cannot properly punish Nona here. Now I use skill 2. I consume 50% of my barrier. In this position that means around 1300 damage to every enemy unit. Then I played Cinta. And from this point, Bernice does not get real value against me anymore. He plays Sky to buy time, but Sky gets stunned because of my skill 2 effect. And this is very important. Time is now on my side, not on his. I deploy River because I want to stack as much barrier as possible. My opponent plays Pixie again to slow down my win condition, so I play Nona again. I'm not in a hurry. I cannot die this turn. Then he deploys Harper, but at this stage whatever he plays does not really matter anymore. This game has already shifted. I survived the early pressure, I stabilized the board, and now I can finally convert my barrier into damage. I activate my skill 3 times in a row that deal 1400 damage in the enemy commander, and from this position I win no matter what I play. So this game shows exactly what Lavonne wants to do. She does not beat Bernice by rushing her, she survives the early pressure. She protects Enoch barrier, she clears the board at the right timing, and after turn 6 she turns that barrier into lethal damage. So after watching the gameplay, we can finally talk about the real problem against Bernice. And this is the most important thing to understand. Lavonne can survive burn, but surviving burn is not the same as beating Bernice. The first problem is barrier itself. Barrier is very good against burn because it absorbs ability damage, so when burn triggers, Lavonne does not necessarily lose HP. But every time burn damages the barrier, Lavonne also loses part of the resource she needs to build her win condition. So yes, she survived, but her skill 3 becomes slower, and this is the paradox of the matchup. Lavonne is designed to resist burn, but burn still slows down the way she wants to win the game. The second problem is the early game. Bernice gains resistance, Lavonne does not. That means Bernice can still threaten burst damage early, especially with multi-attack units like Harper, Regina, or other aggressive tools like Natasha. Lavonne can absorb skill damage, but she is still vulnerable to normal attack and multi-hit pressure. So in the early game, Bernice often has the tempo advantage. Lavonne is not trying to dominate the first turn, she is trying to survive them. The third problem is pressure. To survive against Bernice, Lavonne often needs defensive units, Nona, Cinta, Sky. And honestly, this anti-Bernice package feels almost mandatory. But the problem is simple. Defensive units help you survive, but they lower your pressure. So Lavonne can stabilize, but she may struggle to threaten Bernice fast enough. And against Bernice, surviving is not enough. You also need to make her respect your damage. The fourth problem is S4, and this one is huge. If Bernice plays S4, Lavonne's skill 4 becomes much weaker. Lavonne wants to consume barrier and deal direct damage to the enemy commander after turn 6. But if S4 gives a shield every turn, that shield can block the exact damage Lavonne needs to finish. So even if Lavonne survives the burn, even if she reaches the late game, she can still struggle to close the match. And that is why I don't think Lavonne out-counter Bernice. She answers part of the burn problem, but she does not fully answer Bernice's tempo, resistance, defensive shield, and finishing pressure. Lavonne can exist against Bernice, and right now, that already means a lot. But at best, she fights on even ground. She is not a free win. She is not a reset button. She is a commander who has the tools to play the matchup, but only if you manage your barrier, your defensive package, and your skill-free timing very carefully. So, final verdict. Can Lavonne beat Bernice? Yes, but she is not a hard counter, and that distinction is very important. Lavonne has world tools against burn. Her barrier can absorb burn damage. Her skill 1 helps her heal thought pressure. Her skill 2 can clear the board and punish attackers. And after turn 6, her skill 3 gives her world finishing tools against the enemy commander. So yes, Lavonne can survive Bernice better than most commanders. But surviving burn is not the same as beating Bernice. The matchup is still hard. Burn slows down her barrier scaling. Bernice has resistance in the early game. Lavonne often needs Nona, Cinta and Sky just to survive, and if Bernice plays S4, Lavonne's skill 3 can become much harder to convert into lethal damage. So for me, Lavonne is not the commander that completely resets the burn meta. She does not destroy Bernice, but she can exist against her, and right now, in this meta, that already means a lot. I would currently place Lavonne around tier 1.5, maybe tier 1, maybe tier 2, depending on the build and the matchup. It is still too early to be definitive, but my honest feeling is that she is close to commander like Paige, Helen or Desiree. Strong enough to be played, interesting enough to test, but not strong enough to completely replace Bernice at the top of the meta. Her biggest strength is her identity. She is a control commander. She wants to survive early, stabilize the board, stack barrier, and finish late with skill 3. But her biggest weakness is also clear. She needs time, and against Bernice, time is expensive. So my conclusion is simple. Lavonne can fight Bernice, but she does not out-counter her. At best, she fights on even ground, and to do that, she needs a strong build, good defensive timing, and very careful skill-free management. If you watch until the end, the secret password is Pink Shield. Let me know in the comments what you think about Lavonne. Is she a real anti-burn commander, or is Bernice still too strong? And remember, the best composition is not the one that is meta, it's the one you master.